Hello and welcome to this new episode of the Deep Penetration Podcast. Yes, you heard it right. That is the name, and I will explain the reason for why later. But in case you do not know who I am, my name is Danny, and I am a self-esteem and love coach, and I work with the LGBTQ plus community, specifically in navigating self-awareness, self-development, navigating romantic relationships, dating, all of those things. If you are somebody who does not identify as part of the community, that is absolutely and totally fine. All are welcome on this podcast. It is an inclusive podcast where we essentially just talk about everything and anything that has to do with general self-development, romantic relationships, dating. We cover it all. There will be subject matter that's maybe a little bit more surface, right? General tips, tools, recommendation. And then there's going to be other episodes where we really kind of get deep into the nitty-gritty of certain subjects and topics. Eventually, I would love to have guests on the podcast so we can have very open and honest discussions and conversations about things. So be on the lookout for that coming down the pipeline. And to piggyback off of that, the reason for why it's called Deep Penetration is, number one, again, I like to get into the root of things, to get a little bit deeper, right? So we can get a little bit below the surface. And the other part of that is just because puns are funny. So why not? So today's episode, we are talking all things dating and dating apps. I actually have a couple of different YouTube videos and a training specifically on creating the perfect dating profile. It's Dating 101 for people in the queer community to understand how to increase your odds and your chances of matching with somebody and having a long-term and successful relationship. That was a very long-winded sentence. Now I can breathe. But all of that to say, today we are talking about dating apps, how to use dating apps, how to actually find that match and to delete the app as Hinge likes to market their app. So for me personally, when it comes to dating apps in particular, there are a couple of rules that I usually like to tell people when they come to me asking about, how they should date, how they can really lock down Prince Charming and all of those types of things. And for me, it's focus on one app to begin with, right? You don't want a whole plethora of apps because that's just a distraction. And at the end of the day, the human mind can only process so much. And if you are trying to really narrow down and focus on a long-term, sustainable, committed relationship, it's better to just have one. And when you are utilizing the app, there are a couple of things that you can use to your benefit that are already built into these apps. So number one, please make sure you are using high quality photos and that you are filling out the information that has to do with your vitals and anything that has to do with people getting to know you as a person, right? So often I see people who will create profiles, they'll upload some photos, and they'll just answer a few questions here and there. So they do the minimal amount of effort and work into actually filling out the dating app. But what you don't realize is that when you fill out all the prompts and the questions and the options that are there, it's actually triggering the algorithm to match you or to show you people's profiles that are close to your own. So if you aren't taking advantage of that, then it's likely that you are going to be matching with people who just are not a match for you, who you are not compatible with, because the algorithm, the app doesn't really know who to match you with because you haven't filled out the information. So please fill out all the information that is available. Now, when I talk about high quality photos, I do not mean go out and hire a fashion photographer and have like a crazy fashion shoot in the middle of rodeo. Like, no, you do not have to go that far. If you choose to go that far, kudos to you. That really shows commitment, but that can also be incredibly intimidating for a lot of people on the app. What I have come to find, and from studies that have actually come out from surveys taken by a lot of these dating apps is that people want to see you as a real person, right? So more candid shots with you and your family or your friends, you doing things that interest you, like your hobbies, rock climbing, all of those types of things, because first impressions are incredibly important. And those photos essentially are their first impression of who you are. So if you have this super glammed up, high quality professional fashion shoot where you're, you know, super airbrushed and filtered and it doesn't even really look like you, then they're already going to lose trust in you the first time they meet you because you're not looking like that all the time. So the point here is to build trust immediately just off of visual cues. So candid shots, more natural shots that show your personality, a smile here and there, whatever it is you need to do to say, hey, look, you know what? This is me on a daily basis and this is what you get. I think that is so incredibly important. And if you want to throw in a funny shot in there, right? A comedic shot, maybe one where you're making a funny face or whatever. And I know a lot of people will be like, don't do that. You don't want to do that because you're no. Because that also shows a facet of your personality. And people who can appreciate that will match with you. Whereas people who are too insecure or don't find that to be attractive, they will not try to match with you, which saves you a whole shit ton of time of having to filter through candidates that are just not compatible with you. The other part of this is be active on the app. So many people that I talk to will say, well, I don't really have the time. Well, then if you don't have the time, why are you on the app? You know, I think it's a very important question to ask yourself. What are you doing on the app then? Is it for validation? Is it to, you know, for attention? Is it because it makes you feel like there is a possibility for you to match with somebody and that is exciting in and of itself? Is it because when you're bored on a Saturday and you have nothing to do, you want to potentially go on a date? Like, you have to be very real with yourself as to why you are downloading the app. For me, if you are looking for a serious relationship, then the downloading of the app has to be intentional. And the effort that you put into it and the energy that you put into it will yield the results, right? So if you put minimal effort into it and you approach it incredibly casual, like in an incredibly casual way, that is what you are going to attract. You're going to attract candidates who are, or matches that are very casual, who aren't really looking for anything serious, who don't know what they want. And then I hear this constant like, dating sucks. I can't put myself out there. Every single person that I attract doesn't know what they want. They don't care. And then I ask them and I say, hey, so what is it that you want? Well, I don't really know. I do want to find like somebody that I can be in a relationship with, but I'm not really in a rush to like be real with yourself. You know, if you are in the same boat as everybody else, then don't have these high expectations of attracting high quality candidates who are looking for commitment if you're not coming from that place. So be active on the app. And I also challenge you, if you are the type of person who says to me, or maybe you're even just listening right now in your car or whatever, and you're like, I don't have time to, you know, be on my app all the time. And I get that. I understand. I'm not saying to be on it 24/7. But I challenge you to go into your phone and look at your usage. How much time do you spend on social media, on YouTube, on TikTok, on all these different applications, right? Is it a few hours a week? Is it 6 hours a week? Is it 8 hours a week? Because if you have time to endlessly scroll on social media, which isn't benefiting you in any way, to be honest, then you have the time to be on the dating app. You have the time to invest in finding your person. To me, I feel like that would actually be a priority over just endlessly, mindlessly scrolling on social media. Trust me, I do it. Everybody does. But don't tell me that you don't have the time, because you do. The other part of this is be specific with what you want. Know what you're looking for, because when you know what you're looking for, it makes it that much easier for you to filter through individuals that you feel are not a match or are not compatible for you, which requires you reading the bios. Please read the bios as well. I can't tell you how many people I will see on the dating apps and they're just swiping and swiping and swiping and swiping and swiping left, right, left, right, left, right. But they're not investing the time to read the bios. The bios are there for a reason. It's what gives you insight into this person, their beliefs, their hobbies, their sense of humor, their goals. And if you come across a profile that is not filled out and just has photos, red flag, keep swiping, to be 100% honest with you. That's just my recommendation. That's what I tell people all the time. But make sure you are reading the bios. Not only are you creating your own bio and you're creating a good one, but you're also reading other people's bios. And in being specific with what you want, knowing what you expect out of a relationship, knowing what you can bring to the table, it helps you to, again, filter through the BS. So you can catch those red flags much faster. And it actually helps you to connect and communicate much more easily with people who are like-minded, who are committed to the process, who are wanting to find a committed relationship. And the last part about this is be respectful. When you're on the app, there's let's be real for a minute, okay? Set everything aside. I think there is an issue that is very prominent in our world today when it comes to social media. And I think that's social media bullying and people just being generally mean and rude on social media. And a big part of that is because they are able to hide behind a platform where nobody can see them. So there's almost a sense of safety for them to be able to be cruel or mean or rude because nobody is going to hold them to account. Do not be that person. Even on dating apps, be respectful, be kind, be communicative, because all of those things are going to end up benefiting you in the long run. So even if somebody is rude to you or mean to you, that does not mean that you have to stoop down to that level. Combating that with kindness is actually probably the best thing that you can probably do. I will tell you one specific story from my dating experience. I was on a dating app. I was matching with people, and I had this one person that I was speaking to. I thought that we might have a connection, but I was I was on the fence a little bit just from the way that he was communicating, right? And I ended up being very upfront and honest and saying, hey, look, I have enjoyed the time that we've been speaking, but I just don't necessarily think that we're a match. I wish you nothing but the best. And he came back with the rudest response and ended up basically just disappearing. And for me, of course I felt bad about that because I was like, God, I hope I didn't ruin this person's day. But I handled that situation with kindness, with compassion, and did not choose to retaliate. And actually, a few months later, he ended up being on the app and messaging me and apologizing for his actions because I didn't engage him in that way. I didn't fight back. I didn't, I wasn't rude in return. I just kind of let it be what it was and I kept on pushing. So you don't have to be that person. Be kind, be respectful, be nice. It will yield better results for you. And also, I've talked about this in episodes before. Don't ghost. Please just be the more mature person and do not ghost. Communicate. Let that person know that you don't think that you're a match. Number one, it's actually a good lesson for you in communication and conflict resolution and dealing with conflict in general, but it also provides that person with a level of clarity and closure, so it does not contribute, at least not in a super impactful way, to their self-esteem or their self-confidence. At least I would hope. Everybody processes a little bit differently, and maybe it still will, but at least you have been clear and you have been kind and you have been completely transparent. So let's review those really quick, right? So it's using high quality photos, filling out the bio to its entirety, right? Fill it out completely, actually going on the app and being active on there. That's going to be super helpful. Be specific what it is, specific with what you're looking for, and just be respectful, be kind. And if you actually want to know a little trick, right, here's going to be a golden trick for you, a tip that you probably haven't heard yet. When you have a dating app and you create your profile and you upload that profile, the algorithm reads that as a new user because you are a new user. So what it does is it actually bumps you up in regards to priority. So you see a bunch more people, you get more matches. You're able to view a much broader range of people. But what ends up happening is that after about a week or two, that algorithm does not view your profile as a new pure profile anymore. And because you've already swiped many times and gone through many profiles, your pool starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So if you go on there and you just change your photo or one photo, two photos, or you just change a quote or you change one of the prompts, that will trick the algorithm into thinking that you are a new user again, and it will bump you right back up to the priority list and you'll be able to open up that pool again. So if you find yourself to not have as many matches anymore, try that trick. If you got anything from this podcast, if you got anything from this episode, at least that will be a great tip for you to utilize right now in this moment. And another great tip is there was a survey that was done, and I can't specifically remember who that survey was, but Sundays in the afternoon are prime for matching. And I think a lot of that has to do with people being home. It's a Sunday. They're kind of just bored on the app, all of those things. So if you are finding it difficult to match with people throughout the week, maybe even the beginning of the weekend, try Sunday afternoon and see what those results are. If you do, please let me know. Please leave me a comment. Please tell me how that was for you and if it actually worked or if it didn't work. Either way, I would love to know. So drop a comment down below. I hope you guys found this episode helpful. I hope you found it informative. I hope you're able to use some of those tips and those tricks right away. And again, let me know if they work for you. If you enjoyed this podcast, if you feel like the content is helpful for you, please make sure you are subscribing. That helps to support the podcast and the YouTube channel, and I would greatly appreciate it. I hope you're having an amazing day. I hope you're staying happy and healthy, and I will see you guys in the next episode.